Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this lovely world on your screen. You choose the right place. You could have gone for a virtual Oracle presentation on Oracle World, wherever it is in the United States, or you could have drifted off to Dreamforce, but you've chosen the right place to be right now with us and with our honored guest, Bill Price. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Rolf. I'm very happy to join you and Thomas today.
It is our pleasure. I will give you a short introduction and give you an opportunity and our audience as well to add from your end and from their end to place their questions during our conversation. We are wholeheartedly embracing questions from our audience, and out of those which have our regular access and are friends of the house, so to say, and the show, we expect the one or the other interesting aspect they would like to deep dive and dig in. Having checked whom you know, which I know as well, it is Dr. G, Bernhard Steimel, and a lot of folks you have relations to, and it is no wonder, as we are happy to welcome you as a true pioneer in customer experience to our today's show. You are the president of Driva Solutions, a boutique consultancy dedicated to creating and sustaining highly effective customer contact strategies. You were Amazon's first worldwide VP of customer service, and that bell, what you created there as an experience, is still ringing and is the benchmark and blueprint for a lot of organizations never achieved, where you helped shape the frictionless service philosophy that still defines the company today, as I said. His new company, Intendra AI, launches later this month. As we heard in our pre-show conversation, it's coming soon. He's also co-author of 4 influential CX books. Man, that took you time to write all that stuff, including best service is no service, a saying I recall very much from Thomas, your customer rules, and the frictionless organization, and 0 complaints, and is halfway through book number 5. Bill has helped hundreds of organizations rethink how they engage with customers by reducing effort and increasingly loyalty. And you are also a network man, such as you are co-founder of the Linebridge Global Alliance, operating in over 50 countries, which is a number. You are chairing the Global Operations Council, a network of 40 plus companies sharing best practices in customer operations. And as you are co-writer and advisor to Customer Think, like Thomas and Dr. G was in former days, where you contribute regularly thought leadership on CX experience, employee experience, and AI-powered transformation. With this career spanning McKinsey, MCI, and Android AI, and academic credentials from Dartmouth. Okay, and I could call only the prison Dartmoor. So my apologies.
That's all right. That's all right.
I hope you haven't been there because
not recently. Not recently. No.
We might dig into the topic why he knows prisons.
Yeah.
Okay. Bill brings unmatched depth and global perspective to the conversation. Now, Bill, over to you. What did I miss? And can you give us a sneak preview of what you are going to do with Intendra AI?
Happy to do both those. Thank you, Rolf and Thomas. Again, you mentioned the Global Operations Council, and you talked about how this group of large and medium-sized American companies, usually American-based companies, like to share their best practices. They also have another really distinguishing feature that I think punctuates what I've been passionate about for a long time. They share their worst experiences. They share with each other what didn't work, what they tried, and it either didn't work at all or they had to keep trying to make it work better. And I think that's a story that really should resonate with some of your listeners. Let's not just talk about the best stuff, because it's the quest for the best stuff, which also often starts with failure or starts and stops. That's really important. Like, hey, I tried this technology, I tried this tool, it didn't work with this other tool, it didn't integrate. We didn't know what to do with it. We tried this reporting mechanism that we thought was great that didn't work. So what I've learned from this consortium, this Global Operations Council, is let's talk about the best stuff, but also what did not work. Maybe just one other thing to add is the group that I have as Deriva Solutions has been a terrific group of independent contractors and experts who have they bring a lot of experience to the game. So we like to say that we've been there. We've run operations. We know what it's like. It's not just having good training and going out there and advising companies. And that leads to your last question about Intendra. So over the years, we've built a lot of models, a lot of processes to figure out what the customer issues are, and to do root cause analysis to figure out how to fix those problems. How to fix problems, but also exploit opportunities. So again, it's fixing problems and exploiting good revenue opportunities. And it takes a while to do that. It takes a long time to do that. It's expensive. We have to travel a lot. We have to listen to calls. We've got to look at speech analytics and interview people. Well, now with Intendra, we're using large language models, open source large language models, LLMs, and our own proprietary database over the years to do that much, much faster. So we can figure out what the customer's issues are within a week after collecting a large volume of contacts. So it's not a sample anymore, it's a large volume of contacts. And then we can continuously monitor that over the course of a year to figure out where those issues change, because they will change with advances in new products, new reporting, new pricing, for example, competitors coming in, competitors leaving. And so the issues continue to change and the customer experience will continue to change. So we basically map and then monitor that customer experience on an ongoing basis. And we're very excited about it.
Cool. Yeah, so you just said operations, which you ran operations, which in combination with this book title and your famous sentence,
yeah,
the best service is no service.
Right.
So, and you're saying you're running operations. So can one deduce then that CX then is an operations discipline, or is it more an organizational design principle? And how do you use CX?
Yeah, I think, Thomas, the mistake is to call it an operational discipline alone by itself, because then it winds up being slotted within a particular department or function, like operations, customer service, maybe even IT.
Yeah.
When what I've always done is the following: when I get in front of an audience, it might be a big conference, it might be an offsite meeting with a whole bunch of leaders from the same company. I say, I'd like to have show of hands. I'd like to have everyone raise their hand who's responsible for customer experience in your company. And let's say it's one company. Now, just let me narrow it down to one company, maybe 30 people in the room, and maybe a few people raise their hand. They look around, maybe 4 people raise their hand. I said, no. Every one of you has to raise your hand. Every one of you. No matter what you think your job is, your job description is, everything has to be based on customer experience. If it doesn't, then you're either getting in the way or you're not understanding what your role can be to improve your company's success. So I see it as in our book, Frictionless Organization, we call it a whole of business challenge. Everyone has to be involved. So customer experience or tech support or sales or retail are really helping to inform what's going on, but it's really the combination of those that needs to be grasped by the entire organization. And we use this idea of having owners. So an owner is a team member, the heads of a department, let's say, who needs to feel responsible financially as well as spiritually for what those problems are. So an owner could be someone in marketing who creates a new marketing campaign that is so confusing that customers don't understand it. And so some of them call in for support, and other ones just say, I'm going to go somewhere else. This is too complex. They don't even talk. So you've got complainers, and what we like to call now non-complainers, people who don't even bother to complain because of the confusing marketing issue. And if that marketing team keeps churning out that stuff, it gets more and more confusing. So we have to have a halt and says, wait a minute now, let's stop the madness. Let's figure out what's going on and make things simpler so that customers don't need to contact us about a marketing campaign. They shouldn't. They should really say, oh, that's a great campaign. I like that. It's attractive to me or not. But if it's attractive to me, I know what to do. So the idea of whole of business is customer service, or maybe a sales team that's dealing with business to business customers feeds that back to marketing and says, this is not working. This is broken. This is a bad experience. Let's figure out how to fix it. And so it's not, and so then everyone gets together and tries to figure out what to do. I mean, there's so many great examples out there. I'll just give you one that sticks with me from many, many years ago when I was with McKinsey. I asked them to send me to Japan to study the quality circles practice in Japan. And we went to, it was a small tour group. We went to a Toyota factory and we got a chance to be on the top looking down at the Toyota assembly workers who could press a yellow button or a red button in case there was a problem on the assembly line. And when they did that, the yellow button slowed down the assembly line all the way back to the feeder systems. The red button stopped everything. And so when they did that, fingers didn't get pointed at them. Groups huddled around saying, what did you discover in the final assembly or in the assembly process? Because if I was ahead of you, I must have not caught it, or maybe I contributed to it. And everyone contributed, everyone got together, as a whole of business problem or opportunity to try to fix it. So that I think is what, long answer to your question, Thomas. I think that's really what customer experience and the solutions are to me.
That sounds so familiar, like Dr. G, having his experience with Toyota as well. Very, very good example. Thank you for that one.
So there's quite a lot of mindset involved as well, because you brought in, Thomas hit the red button.
Yeah.
And normally you instantly have the finger pointing, right? Oh, there's the camera. And you broke it, Thomas. So you made a mistake. So the mindset must be different. So what can we do better jointly?
Yeah, I think it comes down to assume the worst, which sounds horrible, but let's take it for a minute. Assume the worst, because then you start embracing what you can do to try to fix it. And it could be a mistake. It could be an innocent mistake. It could be something that was just confusing. So confusion to me is really on almost the same level as a mistake. If someone is confused, it still is friction. It gets in the way for them to understand what to do.
Yeah.
And so if you can reduce that confusion, you wind up reducing the friction, just the same way that you reduce the problems and the collection set of problems that are out there.
So now, when I look at what you just said, and when I look at vendors, I do see that many of them are, let's say, they have a different definition of CX, which oftentimes is very much focused on call center, on customer service, which goes to the extent that they are calling the customer service department the customer experience department.
Right.
What would you give these companies as advice? I mean, what would you give companies that adopt this mindset? I'm not talking about the vendors. I'm talking about their clients now. What would be your immediate advice?
Yeah. In the United States, where I live, we're going through our Major League Baseball playoffs, and so baseball, not a big sport internationally, except perhaps parts of Central America and the Caribbean and Japan. But nonetheless, there is this concept of a pitcher and a catcher, and so to me, customer service is the catcher. The catcher just receives the ball. He or she, as a catcher, signals to the pitcher how to send the ball in order to try to get the out. But it's up to the pitcher and up to the vagaries of how the pitch comes in. And the catcher has to figure out how to catch the ball. Then the important thing, the imagery here is the catcher is customer service. They're receiving the ball, but they're not pitching it. They didn't cause it. They need to send it back to some place to get it fixed. So I'll break the analogy and just stay now in the customer service world. Customer service, customer experience needs to come together, but it's not just customer service. It could be someone in field service. It could be someone in a retail shop. They're in the customer service business, clearly. And if they find a problem with the customer who comes in and says this doesn't fit, or this was damaged when I bought it from your store, or a tech support person going out there to fix something, here's another problem with the product or service, it's really an obligation for them to send it to the right owner. What's hard is to figure out who that owner is and to make sure that owner accepts it. Someone will receive that ball back again. So we did work for Dell Computer a long time ago, and what they did, they liked that pitcher catcher image, and they said for every issue, which is like a ball that's being caught, there needs to be someone who will catch it back again, who needs to be assigned to pick it up. And I think that's where you wind up creating a fabric, a linkage in the organization, which otherwise seems like different functions on an organization chart. What I've always had a problem with from my McKinsey days and my MCI days and Amazon, everything else, is we have these organization charts, which are very hierarchical. You have an ops department, and you have a marketing department, and a logistics department, and a finance department. And now I'm going off your screen because we have more and more departments. When it's kind of an artificial, way that we do stuff. Shouldn't we just all be working together? We can't in a 100,000 employee organization. There has to be some degree of division of labor, but let's bring it all together. Let's have a common language. Let's have a common mission. Let's have a common goal. For Jeff Bezos, it was two things: Earth's most customer-centric company, which was purposely very broad, but very goal-oriented. And the second one, he said, it's still day one, meaning we are still a young company, even though we're $1 billion, even though we're $10 billion, it's still day one. And he would say, for day one, we have to wake up scared every day that someone's going to do a better job than we are. And those 3 images are like a mission statement that can bring together the entire organization. Again, not just customer service.
Yeah. Don't stop getting better.
Don't stop getting better. If you do, then you wind up getting run over. You get run over. So I use an example in the Frictionless Organization, and so this is in the public domain, and therefore I can repeat it and get everyone to think about it. Is years ago when Cisco bought the company that became WebEx, and WebEx was the standard for early video conferencing. It had high market share, and so within WebEx, the head of WebEx technical arm, their CTO, if you will, came to his own management team and said, I think we need an additional product here. We need to simplify the way WebEx is set up. It's complicated. It takes a lot of download time. Customers are giving us some complaints, a key thing there to think about. And the Cisco WebEx management said, no, everything's great. Our market share is high. We're making good money on this. Thank you very much. Well, he left and he formed Zoom. Okay, so Zoom market share is now 60%, and WebEx is around 8%. And Teams is coming on. Maybe it's not 60%. I mean, Teams is coming on strong. Google Meet's coming on strong. Other systems are coming on strong, and WebEx is like gone, almost gone.
And so the Nokia experience to say.
Yes, it's the Nokia experience. It's a BlackBerry experience. It's all those things where if you read the headlines that are written about your organization, you say, things are going great. Let's move on. But if you say, no, we have to challenge what we're doing. We have to challenge everything that we do. And it's not just the customer journey type challenge. We may even get to that during this conversation. It's like every step that we do, because every step can be improved. And if it's not going to be improved by us, it's going to be improved by somebody else.
Yeah. You also brought forward the concept of the owner. What shall this owner own? Because, as you said, usually companies have they have a hierarchical structure.
Right.
Right. If I'm looking at a customer process that usually spans across a bunch of these departments.
Yes.
And now we can well, now we have a conflicting view, an orthogonal view, basically,
yeah.
which is customer's view, which is orthogonal to the hierarchical company view.
Right.
So, which suggests that the owner probably should own a process, and well, which will cause other problems. So, where back to the original question, what shall they own?
Let me give you two examples really quickly here, Thomas. One a simple example, and the one a more complicated example.
Good.
The simple example, because I think it helps, because it maybe gives you this can give this concept. It's such an important one. And I take this owner idea also from Amazon. Amazon was very strong on the idea of ownership. You had to own the issues, you had to own the customer experience, etc. So going back to Amazon, we would capture customer issues. And one of the biggest issues, as you might imagine, for an e-commerce company is, where's my stuff? And that's how we called it. Where's my stuff? That's what customers would say when they emailed us or called us up. I'm waiting for my product. Where's my stuff? I'm waiting for the delivery. Where's my stuff? And we found out that one of the reasons for where's my stuff was that the shipper was late. It left the warehouse on time. The estimate of delivery was set up based on an assumption of delivery time by a third-party shipper. Now, Amazon does its own shipping, of course, too. But let's say it's a third-party shipper, but that third-party shipper was late. And so because we captured those reasons, we timed them out, we costed them out, we knew how much it cost to handle every issue that was a delayed by shipper. So what we did within Amazon is we reversed those costs every month to the logistics VP, whose job was to hire and to manage the outbound shippers, because they were making the mistakes and causing customer problems that were costing us money. At first, he didn't like to accept those costs, but we had this ownership idea in the culture. And his team came down to work with my team, confirmed the problem. Then he short paid that shipper. He did not pay the shipper's complete invoice based on the customer complaints that we were capturing and tracking. Well, that shipper was really upset. That shipping company, big shipping company, was very upset. They said, you can't do that. It's not part of the contract. And what he said was, the contract was for you to perform against expectations. You're not performing because you're causing customer frustrations. So that ownership went from customer service over to the logistics VP, over to the vendor themselves. A more complex example is a telco. We've worked with a lot of telcos, and if you have a telco issue, the owner there, it's hard to pin it on one particular owner, because, as you said, you got these orthogonals and people reporting to other people. But what we do is we try to find someone who is primarily, his or her team is primarily responsible for either causing the problem or fixing the problem. And once you get to that, then that team has to find other affiliates within the organization to help them out. It's usually not one person. It was within the Amazon logistics example, but it wasn't any in the telco and many other companies. So it might be, let's say, the head of IT is responsible for something with chatbots or some sort of digital solution, self-service that isn't working. But he or she then needs to go to someone in marketing who may have actually done some of the writing, someone within UX in a different team, maybe someone in finance who was paying for it or not paying enough for it. So there's an owner, and then you create a team. So customer service or some sort of customer-facing team reports the problem, and then someone tracks it. The owner is assigned, and the owner then brings in a small team of different functions, oftentimes, to try to identify the root causes and to fix it. So it is more complicated. It gets to be kind of matrix-like, issue by issue, but then you wind up finding those patterns, and those patterns can be very, very powerful.
Okay, so that would be a kind of a third principle that I see, because on the other hand, on the other side, I do see owners of touch points, which then will solve things for themselves, potentially making it worse for somebody else.
Potentially, right?
And I do see process owners, which is kind of similar to the Amazon example. The VP of logistics owns the delivery process and makes then sure that the quote unquote broken chain or broken link in the chain, well, it takes care of itself, more or less. Yeah. So because it's an entity. So
Yep.
in that sense, this is a kind of a hybrid. But for me, it's always interesting to see where does which principle work and where not. Like if I operate on touch point level, for example, responsible for whatever touch point, I optimize the heck out of it.
Yes.
That has then the consequence that somewhere downstream, probably, or maybe even upstream, things
Either way,
break.
yeah. Right.
And
right.
Even if they then fix something, the overall result for the client, for the customer, may be worse than what we had before. On the other hand, if there's a process owner who fixes kind of a global optimum, makes my life as a touch point owner probably a bit more difficult, because all of the sudden my immediate customers, who might be in-house, like Ralph, for example, or you, come complaining because they now have more work to do. In your experience, what are good criteria to prioritize optimizing of point over prioritizing of the whole chain / journey, or the other way around?
I think in either case, one has to ask, you have to ask yourself, is there sufficient visibility? Is there a sufficient through line to figure out the implications of what you're doing? The implications of making a change, making something seemingly more efficient or more effective, more clear, whatever. And I guess I come down on the side of not on touch points. I think touch points are too narrow. They're part of the overall factor. Sometimes they're called critical moments, touch points. They're very important to understand where they exist, but they do not exist in a vacuum. They exist on a spectrum, and it's kind of a journey, but I don't want to get too hung up on the classic definition of customer journey. But you've got, when customers want to buy something, they want to use something, they want to be able to employ something, for example, whatever that is. Let's figure out what all those different steps are that the customers have to go through, and make sure someone is looking at that entire range, that entire range across the customer's path, and can survey. Now, is that a chief customer officer? Is it a chief operating officer? I don't really care what the title is, as much as someone who says, we need to look at that entire range to make sure that there isn't an unforeseen circumstance, a negative circumstance later on down the line.
Okay. So one of our repeat offenders coming into the show, hi Graham, sees that sees CX as the cleanup department for
other departments' mistakes.
Whoever snuffed it up. So what would you say to that one, besides chuckling?
Yeah, well, I think one thing I like about Graham's statement is going back to my first point, though, too, guys, is let's realize that there are mistakes. Let's fess up that we do make mistakes. And they could be well-intentioned, they could be unintentional, they could be they're all unfortunate, but let's figure out that there are mistakes, and let's figure out how to do that, how to deal with it. In the last book that I co-authored, we talked about a possibility of a chief problem officer, someone who would be sent all the different issues that are going on in the company, and it's a tough job. If I don't think I want to be the chief problem officer, I wanted to be the chief fixer. But if you at least recognize that there are a lot of problems, and that we cause some of them, or it could be our competitors illuminated them. In other words, our competitors are doing something that's different or simpler or faster. And the problem, so to speak, is the dissonance that our customers feel when they think about how another company is doing it more easily for them. So e-commerce would be an example, because we shop on different we shop on different sites. Banking and telcos, you're typically staying with a contract or some sort of a time period. But in e-commerce, you might be using Amazon or OLX or some other service, and you go, wow, that was easier with that other company. The problem is one of the difference, the delta, that we are more difficult to deal with. and then another company. So you have to be open to listening to customers complaining or remarking. Maybe it's just a remark that, boy, it was much easier for me to go through the to go through my shopping cart, or to be reminded about a shopping cart price change. So Amazon reminds you when there's a change in your shopping cart. First of all, Amazon lets you keep things in your shopping cart. And most e-commerce companies don't. They extinguish it after your session is over. And so that's a big difference. And so having a way to collect. So CX could be seen as a group that collects these problems, mistakes, or these differences versus the way other companies are operating, and then says, is this something we want to tackle? How big of a deal is this? Is this something that we think will improve the way we operate, improve customer retention, get them to stay with us longer, maybe get them to buy more from us? And so I see it. I don't see a CX person per se. I see it as a way to have a collective, this group that gets together frequently to share what's going on, and then combined, because of their different experiences, function by function, will come up with what to do.
That is a fantastic mix, and that brings us into the not only that Uli is sharing his positive thoughts on your statements. Uli is a long-known friend out of my old days in several software companies over 30 years ago, and is still looking into customer service, customer experience, and all this. And we were talking in the topic about the ROI of AI in CX.
Yes.
To come closer to that, to nitty-gritty, ticky thing is to have some KPIs. And what you can't measure, you should not go for. So what are your secret sauce KPIs you should watch for? One, and on the CX side, and on the other end, which of them is probably helping to get us a hook on, is there an ROI, an AI in CX?
I love secret sauce questions. Those are fun. Because once we reveal them, they're no longer secret sauce, which is great. Everyone can start cooking the same way. So with their own variations. So one metric that I've enjoyed for a long time, and I think is underused, is something that I would call, my team and I, my partners in Linebridge and I, call CPX, contacts per X. It's a rate of contact measurement. And let me start with what bugs me. We in customer service and customer experience, we get bogged down with averages, with samples, and with audits. And before AI, that's about all we could do. Now we can do a census, an entire collection of what's going on, not just a sample. We don't need to interview customers after a call with a post-contact survey to find out how did we do. We should know how we did. There's enough. One of my customers is calling it voice of data. We have voice of customer, and then let's combine it now with voice of data. And averages are just terrible. I mean, averages, sample sizes and all that are terrible. So instead, if we analyze all the different reasons why customers are complaining and asking us for help, all those contacts, different channels, divide it by the number of customers, the number of orders shipped, the number of invoices that we have sent out, the number of products that are in place. So it could be that the contacts per order or contacts per X, the X could be the number of embedded base units that are out there. And we look at that trend over time, but we don't just look at the overall number. The overall number in general, I'll give you the insight here, about 60% of the issues are problems, and about 40% could become opportunities. So let's overall reduce the number of those contacts. But then now look down at the actual issue level, or the intent level. That's what we're doing with my new company, Intendra. Look at the intent level. And there could be many intents. What we see, some companies have thousands of possible intents or reasons why customers contact them. That's way too many. Some of them have only a few, like billing issues, that doesn't tell you anything. That's too combined. So we break down these intents to maybe between 25 and 50 or maybe 60 per company, and that's it. At Amazon, we had 30. That's it.
Ah.
And those 30 have not changed over the years. Like, where's my stuff? I mentioned one of them already. So you look at the rate of contacts by intent. And then within that, you look at the customer churn, the customer turnover related to having contacted your company about each intent. So again, the overall churn for a telco might be 2% per month. Just to give you for like a subscription service for a mobile, might be 2% a month, might be 30% per year. Just to give you a starting point. That could be an overall churn number for all the issues that come in and for all the customers. But the problem is that two problems. One is at the issue level, the churn could be almost zero for certain issues because they're safe, they're fine issues, they're good issues. In one case, we did a project where the churn was 10.5% per month for that particular issue. So every time customers contact you about that particular issue within this telco, they were going to churn more than 100% a year. And so you need to then drill down into that issue more than the ones that have a low churn percentage. So that's one problem and one opportunity. And having said that, the entire collection of what we've discussed so far are what we might call the complainers, the customers who are bothering to complain. As I mentioned a few minutes ago with Thomas's question, it turns out that more customers, the customers who are the non-complainers outnumber the complainers by between 4 to 1 all the way up to 20 to 1. So for every complainer you get, you could have 20 non-complainers who don't even bother to complain. The churn rate for the non-complainers is really, really high. We look at academic research to look for this because a lot of this isn't done within companies very much because they're not complaining. You don't know who they are. But the academic work has done this, and they say that on average, it's about an 88% churn rate for non-complainers. It's a horrible number.
Hard one.
Per period.
Yeah, over a period of within a contract, they will not renew their contract, or they will not repurchase from you.
Okay.
Yeah. So 88%.
I mean, it's still horrible, even if it's 2 years.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
It's a disaster zone. It's like the desert. You know what?
It's a desert. And the thing is, Rolf, it gets masked by overall numbers. Overall numbers, hey, we're adding customers overall, we're adding revenues overall. But then when something doesn't happen well, a competitor swoops in, or there's a problem in the economy, all of a sudden things stall and come down. If you don't know those reasons, they're going to come down really, really fast. And one of those reasons could well be that you're not listening to the non-complainers. So I'm saying something that's sort of maybe a mind problem. You have to listen to the non-complainers. You got to figure out who they are, and then figure out how to deal with them. Before AI, that was really, really hard. Now with AI, we can begin to quantify that and go back and build a really powerful ROI case for fixing the problems that the complainers tell us about, and then reach out to those customers who did not complain, but who probably had, or we should assume that they had the same problem. We should assume it. Now, I go back to what I said earlier in this discussion with you. Let's assume the worst. Let's assume we made a mistake. Let's not assume the best, because then you're going to wind up going in la-la land. Let's assume the worst. And if we assume the worst, we will find it. If we're not looking for it, we're not going to find it.
From a research and statistics point of view, is it the complainers and non-complainers, do they show the same churn behavior? Or is that different usually?
The non-complainers churn more. The non-complainers churn more because the complainers, at least with the complainers, you have a chance to try to listen to them and fix the problem. If you're good at it. So there's been work done by John Goodman and others who have talked about this over the years to say that if you've got like one chance to get it right, you've already messed up the first place, and then you get the contact because internet was down, the bill was wrong, the shipment didn't arrive on time, something came damaged. At least you have the chance. You have one chance to try to fix that when they come in. If you did, good on you, and the churn rate is going to be lower. If you did not do a good job fixing it, the churn rate might be around 60 or 70%. But the non-complainer churn rate is still higher because they didn't even bother. They didn't even bother to complain. And so this is really, really, voting with your feet, Jürgen, exactly right. That's right. Voting with your feet. And the thing is, on an overall basis, it's hard to figure that out. We don't do exit interviews for customers very much. We think about this for employees, but even that doesn't work very well. So if we could have a robust exit interview for every customer who walks with their feet and votes with their feet, then that would be wonderful. But it's really hard to do that. So we have to do that through analytical work and through some really serious self-analysis by a company, self-analysis. It says, what did we do wrong? And how can we really fix that? Because it's fixing it for the entire customer base, not just those who complained. So that's also a key part of what we're doing in Intendra is identifying the non-complainers and addressing them, pulling them back into the fold so they don't vote with their feet and take off. It's critical, and we think it's very exciting. And because of the new age of AI and LLMs and much better predictive analytics, we think we can finally get our arms around that problem.
Yeah, predictive analytics is key there. So,
oh yeah, yeah.
Let's call it the real AI, not the fluffy stuff that doesn't yet generate real value. In business.
I like that, the real AI, because this is a real problem. And you both nodded when I talked about non-complainers outnumber the complainers. We all kind of know this, and then before the real AI has come along, we all go, well, but we don't know who they are, so let's just fix all those problems. If we fix the problems that are coming in right now, the non-complainers will be okay. But some of the non-complainers may have already left. They may have just already gone. So or they may be waiting for the end of their contract. A good example would be someone who maybe has a 12-month lease for an apartment. Think about that one. And I haven't lived in an apartment for a while, but one of my daughters does, and so I hear problems that she complains about what's going on, and now she's not even complaining anymore. She's already looking for her next lease. And so there's a cost to having to acquire a new renter and get that set up. And it'd be far better to hold that renter in that unit than it would be to find someone new. And we kind of know those data points, but then we don't really apply them. It's like that's done over here by a marketing team, perhaps with a little finance manager behind them. But let's figure out how we can do it across the entire customer base. And I'll just lay a second little metric on you here, Rolf, to your question about what the secret sauce is. Let's get down to segments of each customer being unique and needing to be identified and treated as a unique individual rather than personas or segments of customers, which are still sample type sizes. And with AI, we can begin to do that. We can understand how the three of us have, if we're all working, if we're all buying from the same company or with the same bank or same telco, we would have very, very different needs and requirements from each other. That might shoehorn, they might kind of fit into a segmentation concept, but it's much better to get down to segments of one. And I'm very excited about how that is evolving in terms of AI and predictive analytics. What are the unique requirements that each of us has? Personalization is kind of a buzzword for it, but true personalization from a service side, not just and an ongoing care side, not just in terms of the acquisition side.
On the snarky side here, thanks for not saying hyper-personalization.
No. Yeah,
and right, the good old one-to-one marketing is coming back, such as the one, focus on the special one.
I've been a big fan of the one-to-one marketing concept by Peppers and Rogers, and I've gotten to know Don Peppers very well over the years. Quoted him a couple of times in my books, and he's endorsed some of the books too. And he and I have debated about this issue of when we'll be able to apply one-to-one marketing on the service and support side. Well, I think that day is now coming, and I'm excited by it.
With the help of AI, I believe so, and
I think so.
I'm still love to dig in the last 15 minutes a bit into the ROI of AI in CX question in some more depths, if it's possible.
Sure,
What are
sure.
your examples where you get excited? What are examples where you are getting disgusted?
Well, one area that I get excited about, Rolf and Thomas, and for your viewing audience, is the idea that costs are not just the direct costs of support, which I mentioned in Amazon was like, here's the volume of contacts for bad shipping, here's the amount of time we're taking to fix it, and here's the labor costs for those individuals. That I call those direct costs, and it's important to understand that. Not very many companies we start working with know their direct costs. So that's table stakes. That's a basic number. But what's not known and what gets me excited is something that we've coined or we've defined as downstream costs, meaning what happens after the customer interactions. Again, we're talking about complainers. What happens after the customer interactions to finish the resolution of the problem, to fix the problem, to do some of the rebates, refunds, going out to pick up a damaged chest of drawers that was shipped out by a third-party shipper, bring it back again, and then deliver a new one. Those downstream costs are typically borne by other departments than customer service. Could be operations, could be marketing, could be IT, whatever. And so when you combine the downstream costs with the direct costs, you find that it's a much more powerful number to put into the R of ROI. So to give you an example, for a telco that we've done recently, we broke down all their issues, as I said before, into 30 or 40 different reasons, and some of them had virtually no downstream costs. It could be fixed within the conversation, done. Other ones had a ratio on average of 4 or 8 to 1 downstream costs to direct costs. So if it cost €100 on the board to handle this problem because of the direct cost, it could be another 700 or 800 euros to complete the resolution or to fix the problem or to give a refund or to pick up the damaged product in another department. So the actual R is 800 or 900 euros, not just 100 euros. The I, we pretty much know, oh my, the I is really a strong I. I mean, we got this investment, this tool, bringing in this technology, changing this software. We pretty much get, we as companies know the I pretty tightly, but the R has always been squishy. So what I'm giving you as one indicator is start with direct costs, add the downstream costs. That alone becomes a much more powerful driver. The second one, I'll just stop at 2. The second one is this idea of churn and repurchase rates. And here we talk about the complainers and the non-complainers. So if we bring in the non-complainers and their potential churn for the same issues, then we find out that, okay, it might cost, it might cost 500,000 euros to fix this particular software problem. And the R on that is going to be the direct cost and the downstream cost. No, that's not enough. You have to add the impact of churn and repurchase for those customers who did complain, which is a subset of all customers, and then the non-complainers on top of it. Start with just some assumptions until you can get the AI in gear to figure out what the ratio really is between non-complainers and complainers. And all of a sudden you go, wait a minute now, we're losing more customers than we ever thought. And how can we retain them? That is retain them and or get them to purchase more from us. Buy more things on e-commerce, buy additional features and products that we offer, the cross-sell, upsell thing, that whole conundrum. They're not going to buy any more stuff if they're frustrated. So don't even bother selling it to them if they're frustrated. But when the issue gets resolved, then you can wind up keeping them around. So I think, Rolf, those are some ideas that I'm excited about is combining them.
Absolutely. Cool.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, now we also know how to do the business case around it. Some ideas of points that usually get forgotten.
They do get forgotten. They get forgotten because, again, the I is a strong I. And then again, customer experience is a little softer compared to the ROI to build a new website, to build a new warehouse, to build a new car. Those are good hard ROIs that you know about. But the customer experience can actually be very, very powerful, and it needs to have its seat at the table when it comes to coming up with these investment opportunities within the company.
Bringing that back to, let's say, the environment of the company. So now I have identified a bunch of challenges, issues, problems. You pick your word.
Right.
That indicates that you have a bigger job to do. As a company, you want to improve all this in order to get, well, CX right, so that costs are going down and margin probably is going up, revenues are going up, so that we capture all those possible benefits.
Yes.
So how to set this now up ideally? Is it better to make it a competence center or a network of people who do that, a community of practice? That was the word that I was looking
Practice.
for.
Yeah.
Is that does it require an ongoing, what I now would dub a friction council that continuously looks and prioritizes friction losses and then gets them solved? So what are decision criteria on how to set this up?
Yeah. Everyone's work week is probably 150% taxed already within organizations. I look at some of my clients' calendars that they share with me every so often, and they're double, triple booked sometimes in meetings. They often get invited to meetings that are not particularly meaningful, very useful for them, but they feel they better go there because something might happen and I don't want to miss it. What I would say is we need to kind of stop that madness as well. That's what I try to do when I was running customer service in different companies, MCI, Amazon, and so forth. And I think the community of practice, as you called it, I like that idea a lot. Call it a friction council, something that conveys what's going on. With one of my clients, they called it a demand reduction group, demand reduction council. They were trying to reduce the demand for support by fixing problems. And what happens is if you can then get that group together and look at the same types of numbers, like the different reasons or intents that I talked about, see how they're trending over time. So I'll give you a very specific example from 26 years ago when I was at Amazon. We would meet every Friday for 2.5 hours as an executive team, and there'd be about 15, 18 of us in the room. Jeff Bezos would be there without fail. So would be the head of marketing, the head of web development. I would be there. My team would report the results. We would be the informant, the catcher throwing the ball back. And then we would go intent by intent, reason by reason. And we looked at their performance on a contacts per order week over week. And so we all knew, because we'd been in that room the week before or the month before, that we had been planning a new self-service tool on the website, a new web development self-service tool. Okay, and it was meant to reduce the need for contacts of a certain type. So then we could say, well, did it work? Did our contact rate go down? And if that was the case, then we said, that's good, but why was that good? How can we make it even better? So don't just stop with seeing the metrics looking a little bit better. Understand, why was that going on? If the metric went the other way, you expected to go down, the self-service was supposed to work and reduce it, but it went up, then that wasn't a very pretty meeting, because everyone was like, what's going on? What happened? What can we do? What went wrong? Again, own the problems. And that group would then surface other opportunities. So it might be someone from legal was sitting there just watching all this, and he or she might say, have you thought about this? And people, no, because I'm working like, this is my job, I'm working like this. But the council, the friction council, the demand reduction group, whatever you might call it, can help each other out. And then we would leave after 2.5 hours with a whole bunch of things to fix, and a whole bunch of, I'll call it again, and with some satisfaction that what had been put in place before was beginning to take traction. So at Amazon, we reduced the contacts per order, the CPO, by 70% in the first year or two that we did this. Reduced the contacts per order by 70%. And that number can't go down to zero, but it goes down asymptotic to zero, and it keeps going down. It kept going down years and years later on because of this constant focus as a group on what to do.
How much lead time did you give us a solution? So now I have identified a problem. I've built a solution which
right.
will need some time to be picked up, like the
Sure.
self-service might not be found,
Sure.
for example. So
No,
how much
no.
lead time do you give that?
Yeah, and that was really the responsibility of the owner to say, I think this is going to take a month to come in. And an executive, it could be a Jeff Bezos, it could be someone else around the room at Amazon. In our clients, it could be someone in the room, doesn't matter. It could be a senior executive or not. Could say, well, we can't wait for 4 weeks. This is an irritating issue. We all have agreed it's a painful issue. The churn rates are high. And so what can we do collectively to bring that down from a 4-week improvement cycle down to 2 weeks? Can we communicate it better? Is there something, maybe someone in marketing say, hey, we can send out something in the next billing cycle, or we can put something on the website banner in a more prominent way, or we can have it flashing on the web. I mean, what can we do to make it faster for this to happen? And that again is where someone who is outside of the direct ownership becomes part of it. And one of those ideas clicks in, and then they feel good, they want to contribute more. So I think short answer to your question is each owner needs to predict how long it might take, and then but that's not the answer. That's not the final answer. The final answer is what comes out of the group that says, well, let's make it faster. We really can't let our customers languish or suffer any longer on this issue.
And I'm convinced that none of the players who suggested a solution at a lead time didn't lowball it. Then
of course they do. I mean, and this all gets down to budget mania. You know, the budget. You know, working on your budgets and padding your budgets and all this stuff. We all know that happens, and some of that has to happen, I suppose. But let's figure out how to cut through that, because if we really think that the customer's in charge, that we want to be Earth's most customer-centric company, that we want to make sure we don't lose customers who we fought hard to win. If we really believe that, then we better fix these problems and make sure they don't go away.
Okay. Looking at our timing, so I think we can continue this conversation, well, forever. At least for quite some time, because it's more than just a bit exciting and interesting.
Yeah.
But well, Tempus Fugit and the likes. So we are nearly on top of the hour, and we usually want to end the conversation with what we call famous last words in order to terminate the discussion, not the guest.
Okay.
From that perspective, so what we talked a lot about what to do and how to do. If you had 1, 2, maybe 3 examples of what really not to do, or not to do when you want to engage in the CX initiative.
Yeah. I love that concept, and what not to do is so important. What to stop doing, what not to do. I think one thing not to do is to say we've arrived, we've got it. Do not say that. You know, it becomes quicksand. You get sucked into it. You've never arrived. That's the Amazon concept of it's always day one, but you've not arrived. Some of the best clients and customers we've had over the years as consultants and now as Intendra are ones that say, you know, things are doing pretty well, but we know that there are cracks in the wall. Help us find those cracks. We have to figure out how to fill those before they erupt for us. So that's one thing not to do. I think the other one not to do is to rely, as I said a few minutes ago, but I want to reinforce it. Don't rely on averages. Don't rely on averages like Net Promoter Score, which is an average, or you know, average customer churn rates. Don't rely on averages, because look at what authors have talked over the years as the long tail, the worst case. Figure out what the worst case is. You know, the average handle time is 15 minutes for a tech support call, but why do we have calls that are 60 minutes long or 80 minutes long? Let's figure out what's going on there, because that is clearly contributing to the average, and we want to bring that average down if we can, maybe not, but if we can. But let's not just focus on averages. So those are the two that I would leave you with is forget about averages. Don't dwell on averages. They're not going to give you the signpost of where to go.
Great. Really great.
Marvelous.
This has been fun. This has been fun, guys. Enjoy this.
Yeah, and we probably should invite you, not probably, cut the filler words, Thomas. We need to invite you actually for it to continue this, because I feel there's so much more that is important for our audience that you can express.
Excellent.
That,
Well, we're
so-
never there. See, that goes back to what I said a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
It needs to be a continuous conversation, a continuous process, because there will always be new tools, new products, new competitors, new challenges. Let's keep talking. Let's keep talking.
Yeah.
Like the loop and the flywheel approach, we would love to have you
Yes.
back with
Yes.
your first experience, what you have achieved in Intendra AI, for instance.
Okay, that would be excellent. I look forward to that, and I hope that to be very soon. And let's keep in touch on that and other matters too.
Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot, Bill. This was, well, beyond amazing today. So, and
My pleasure.
thanks
My
to the
pleasure. I had a
audience
lot of fun.
Thanks for the audience for being active. Thanks to them for the audience. My grammar today really sucks. Thanks to the audience for being active.
Yeah.
So this is always highly appreciated by us. So you guys and girls can't be active enough, actually.
Good.
So this is it for this week. And again, thanks, Bill. Next week, we'll look into practical benefits of using AI, especially with a focus on sales processes, knowing who is coming, who is Clint Oram, co-founder of Sugar CRM, who will spend a good deal of his life in creating good customer experiences via a CRM system. That'll be another great one. So, and another good guy to talk to. So Clint is always fun too. Okay, thanks a lot. That's it for today, and we'll see you next time.
And we go backstage.